You need to comply with the crew's instructions immediately, sir, or we will have you removed from this aircraft.
What would you do if you stood in the aisle, ticket in hand, and the seat you paid for was already taken, and the entire cabin looked at you like you didn't belong there? Ethan Walker didn't move. The plane hummed low beneath his feet, a steady vibration that ran up through his spine. Overhead bins slammed shut, seatbelts clicked. Somewhere behind him, a man sighed loudly, impatient. The air smelled faintly of recycled oxygen and expensive cologne. Row 2, window seat. His seat. And there she was. Amanda Reynolds sat perfectly still in seat 2A, legs crossed, one manicured hand resting on the armrest like it had always belonged there. A glass of sparkling water balanced beside her. Her eyes flicked up for half a second, cool, assessing, then dropped back to her phone as if he were nothing more than background noise. Ethan blinked once, slow, controlled. "Excuse me," he said, voice even, steady. "I think you might be in my seat." Amanda didn't look up right away. She finished whatever she was scrolling, then lifted her gaze with a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "No," she said, calm, certain. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." A pause, thin, sharp. The man in the aisle behind Ethan leaned slightly to the side, trying to see. A woman across the row lowered her magazine. Eyes were starting to gather, quiet, curious, waiting. Ethan shifted his grip on the handle of his worn leather carry-on. The material creaked softly under his fingers. "That's seat 2A, he said. "My boarding pass says 2A. Amanda tilted her head just enough to suggest patience, not doubt. "Mine does too." She held up her phone, just long enough for others to see, not long enough to question. A ripple moved through the cabin, subtle, judgment forming in silence. Ethan leaned in slightly, close enough to read, close enough to confirm what he already suspected. 3C. Not even close. He exhaled slowly through his nose. "That says 3C, he replied, voice still controlled. "Middle seat, different row." For a fraction of a second, something flickered in Amanda's expression. Then it hardened. "No," she said, sharper now. "I always sit here." Always. Like the seat recognized her, like the system bent around her presence. Behind them, a quiet whisper. "Here we go." Ethan straightened, his shoulders squared, not aggressively, but with a quiet weight that didn't ask for permission. "I'm not trying to argue," he said, "but I paid for this seat. I'd appreciate it if you could check again." Amanda let out a soft laugh, not amused, dismissive. "Or," she said, crossing her arms, "you could just take 3C and we can all move on." That did it. The air shifted. Not loud, not explosive, but something deeper, something older. Ethan felt it in his chest, that familiar tightening, the one he hadn't felt in years, not since boardrooms where people mistook him for staff, not since deals where he had to prove again and again that he wasn't there by accident. Around him, eyes moved differently now, measuring, sorting. Who belongs, who doesn't? Ethan's jaw tightened just enough to be noticed. His voice, when it came again, was lower. "Ma'am," he said, with all due respect, "I'm not moving." Silence. Real silence this time. Amanda's fingers curled slightly against her phone. Her smile disappeared, completely. And for the first time, she really looked at him, not as an inconvenience, as a problem. Somewhere near the front, a flight attendant turned, sensing the shift. Conversations faded. The hum of the cabin seemed to drop half a note. Because this wasn't about a seat anymore. This was about something people rarely said out loud, but always understood. And Ethan Walker knew with absolute certainty that in the next few minutes, someone in this cabin was about to make a decision they wouldn't be able to undo. The flight attendant didn't rush.
She walked with measured steps, the kind trained into muscle memory after years of managing tension at 30,000 feet. Her name tag read Lily Carter, early 30s, composed face, neutral smile that had handled too many situations like this, but not this one. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, voice smooth, controlled, already scanning the scene before anyone answered. Amanda turned first. Of course she did. "Yes," she said, a slight edge sharpening her tone. "This man is insisting I'm in his seat." Lily's eyes flicked to Ethan, quick, evaluating, then back to Amanda. The hesitation was almost invisible, but it was there. Ethan caught it. He always did. "This is seat 2A, Ethan said calmly. "My boarding pass confirms it." Lily nodded, still neutral. "Let me see both boarding passes, please." Amanda handed hers over with a soft sigh, like this was beneath her. Ethan followed, no hesitation, no theatrics. Lily glanced down. 1 second. 2. Her fingers paused. There it was again, that flicker. She saw it. 3C, not 2A, clear as daylight. Ethan waited, silent, watching her face, not her hands, waiting to see which version of the truth she would choose. Around them, the cabin held its breath. A businessman across the aisle leaned back, pretending not to watch. A woman near the window angled her phone just enough to capture everything without being obvious. The low hum of the aircraft felt louder now, like static building before a storm. Lily lifted her head. "Okay," she said slowly. "It looks like—" Amanda cut her off. "There must be a mistake," she said, louder now, just enough to draw more attention. "I booked this seat weeks ago. I always sit in the front. You can check your system." Her voice carried confidence, not the kind built on facts, the kind built on being believed. Lily's posture shifted, just slightly. Ethan saw it, that moment where the easy decision became complicated, where truth collided with comfort, where resolving the issue meant choosing who to inconvenience and who to doubt. "Ma'am," Lily said carefully, turning toward Amanda, "your ticket shows seat 3C. Amanda's smile tightened. "Then your system is wrong." A murmur rippled through the cabin, subtle, disbelieving. Ethan didn't move, didn't interrupt. He let the silence stretch, because silence had weight, and right now it was pressing down on everyone. Lily lifted her head. "Okay," she said slowly. "It looks like—" Amanda cut her off. "There must be a mistake," she said, louder now, just enough to draw more attention. "I booked this seat weeks ago. I always sit in the front. You can check your system." Her voice carried confidence, not the kind built on facts, the kind built on being believed. Lily's posture shifted, just slightly. Ethan saw it. That moment where the easy decision became complicated, where truth collided with comfort, where resolving the issue meant choosing who to inconvenience and who to doubt. "Ma'am," Lily said carefully, turning toward Amanda, "your ticket shows seat 3C. Amanda's smile tightened. "Then your system is wrong." A murmur rippled through the cabin, subtle, disbelieving. Ethan didn't move, didn't interrupt. He let the silence stretch, because silence had weight, and right now it was pressing down on everyone. Lily lifted her head. "Okay," she said slowly. "It looks like—" Amanda cut her off. "There are small seats in the back. I don't mind taking one of those."
The word didn't echo. It landed, flat, final, heavy enough that even the engine noise seemed to step back for a second. Lily blinked, not because she hadn't heard him, but because she hadn't expected that answer. Not from him. Amanda let out a short breath through her nose, something between a laugh and a scoff. "Unbelievable," she muttered, just loud enough for the people closest to hear. "We're really doing this over a seat."
Ethan didn't look at her. Not yet. He kept his eyes on Lily. "No," he repeated, quieter this time, but somehow sharper. "I'm not moving." A shift rolled through the cabin, subtle but real. People adjusted in their seats, phones tilted a little higher. The invisible line had been drawn, and now everyone was watching to see who would step over it. Lily straightened slightly, the professional mask tightening back into place. "Sir," she said, her tone still controlled but firmer now, "I'm asking for your cooperation so we can avoid delaying the flight." There it was, not about right or wrong anymore, about time, about pressure, about making him the obstacle. Ethan nodded once, like he'd been expecting that. "I'm already cooperating," he said. "I showed my ticket, I explained the situation, I'm standing in front of the seat I paid for." His voice didn't rise, it didn't need to. Amanda shifted in her seat, crossing her legs again, more aggressively this time. "This is ridiculous," she said, louder now. "I have meetings to get to. I don't have time for this kind of nonsense." A man 2 rows back leaned toward his neighbor. "He's holding up the whole plane," he whispered. Another voice, quieter, "Or maybe she is." Ethan heard both. He always heard everything. Lily exhaled slowly, glancing toward the front of the cabin where the rest of the crew was beginning to notice. A signal passed between them, unspoken but understood. Escalation. "Sir," Lily said again, her voice dropping just enough to carry authority now, "if you refuse to follow crew instructions, we may need to involve ground staff." There it was, not a threat, but close enough. Ethan finally turned his head, just slightly, and looked at Amanda. Really looked at her. She met his gaze for a second, then lifted her chin, as if daring him to challenge her reality. "You always sit here?" he asked. Amanda didn't hesitate. "Yes." Ethan held her gaze a moment longer, then nodded almost to himself. "Interesting." He reached into his jacket pocket, slow, deliberate, every movement controlled, like he understood exactly how many eyes were on him. A few people leaned forward without realizing it. He pulled out his phone. The screen lit up in his hand, casting a faint glow against his fingers. Lily's posture tightened. "Sir, you can't record without—" "I'm not recording," Ethan said, calm but firm. "Not yet." That word hung there. Yet. Amanda's fingers tightened slightly around her own phone, that flicker again, smaller this time, but real. Ethan tapped once, then again. His thumb moved with quiet precision, like someone who wasn't guessing what came next. Behind him, the businessman who had been whispering earlier leaned back now, watching more carefully. The woman by the window had stopped pretending to film. The air changed again. Not just tension, expectation. Lily took a step closer. "Sir, I need you to—" Ethan raised his hand. Not aggressively, just enough to pause her. "Before you say anything else," he said, his voice low, steady, controlled in a way that made people listen whether they wanted to or not. "I want to be very clear about what's happening here." No one spoke. Even Amanda stayed quiet. Ethan's eyes moved briefly across the cabin, taking it in, every face, every reaction. Then back to Lily. "You've confirmed she's in the wrong seat," he said. "You've seen my ticket, and instead of correcting the mistake, you're asking me to step aside to make things easier." Lily's jaw tightened slightly. That is exactly what it is," Ethan said, still calm, but now there was something under it, something harder. "And I just want to make sure we all understand that before we take the next step." The words settled over the cabin like a weight. No one shifted now, no whispers, no movement, because suddenly this wasn't just a disagreement, it was a record. And somewhere deep in that silence, a quiet, uncomfortable thought began to spread. They might have picked the wrong person.
No one spoke. Not Lily, not Amanda, not the passengers who had been so quick to whisper just seconds ago.
The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy, watching, waiting. Ethan lowered his hand slowly, like a man who knew exactly when to apply pressure and when to let it breathe. His phone remained in his grip, screen still lit, thumb resting but ready. Lily recovered first. Years of training snapped back into place. "Sir," she said, voice tighter now, "I understand your concern, but we need to resolve this quickly. We can reseat you in another first-class seat." Ethan didn't even glance at the rest of the cabin. "That's not a solution," he said. "That's avoidance." Amanda shifted again, irritation breaking through the polished surface. "Oh my God," she snapped, louder now, no longer pretending to be patient. "It's just a seat. Why are you making this such a big deal?" Ethan turned his head slowly toward her. This time there was no softness in his expression, not anger, something colder. "Because it's not just a seat," he said. The words landed harder than anything he'd said so far. Amanda held his gaze for a moment, then looked away first, just for a second, but it was enough. Lily noticed it. So did a few others. Power wasn't always loud. Sometimes it showed in who blinked first. From the front of the cabin, a new presence stepped in, taller, broader, the kind of authority that didn't ask permission to enter a situation. "Is there an issue here?" The voice was deeper, sharper. Captain Daniel Brooks, mid-50s, decades in the air, a man used to command, not to date. Lily straightened immediately. "Captain, we have a seating confusion. This passenger," she gestured briefly toward Ethan, "is refusing to relocate while we sort it out." Refusing. Ethan's eyes flicked to her, just for a fraction of a second. He didn't correct her, not yet. The captain stepped closer, his gaze landing on Ethan. Quick assessment, clothes, posture, expression, everything processed in seconds. Then Amanda. Then back to Ethan. "Sir," the captain said, voice firm, practiced, "we need you to comply with crew instructions so we can depart on time." There it was again. Not truth, not fairness, compliance. Ethan nodded slowly, like he'd heard this script before. "And what exactly am I not complying with?" he asked. The captain didn't hesitate. "You're being asked to move seats." "I'm being asked to give up my seat," Ethan corrected, calm but precise. A flicker crossed the captain's face, small, annoyed. "Temporarily," he said. "And she stays?" The captain glanced at Amanda. She met his look with quiet confidence, the kind that assumed alignment. "Yes," he said. The word dropped into the space like a verdict. A few passengers shifted uncomfortably. The woman with the phone in the window seat adjusted her angle again, more openly now. A man across the aisle shook his head faintly, almost imperceptible. Ethan saw all of it. He always did. "Interesting," Ethan murmured. The captain's patience thinned. "Sir, I'm not going to argue this. Either you move voluntarily or we escalate the situation." Escalate. A heavier word this time. Amanda leaned back, folding her arms again, watching Ethan now with open expectation, waiting for him to fold, to step aside, to confirm what she had already decided about him. Ethan looked down briefly at his phone. The screen had dimmed, but a single notification sat there, unread, waiting. He didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he looked back up at the captain. "Let me ask you something," Ethan said, voice still even, but something underneath it had shifted again, sharper now, more deliberate. "If our positions were reversed, if I were sitting there and she were standing here with a valid ticket, would you be asking her to move?" The captain didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. Amanda scoffed. "That's not even the same thing." Ethan's eyes moved to her, slow and steady. "It's exactly the same thing." Silence again, thicker now, the kind that made people aware of their own breathing. The captain stepped closer, close enough that the line between authority and intimidation blurred just slightly. "This is your final request," he said. "Move or we involve security." There it was. Clear now. No softness left. Ethan didn't step back, didn't raise his voice, didn't even blink. He just nodded once, like a man who had been waiting for that exact sentence. Then, finally, he unlocked his phone.
The screen lit up in his hand, sharp and cold against the dim cabin light, and for a moment Ethan didn't touch it, just let it glow there like a quiet warning no one fully understood yet. The captain watched him now, jaw set, already convinced this was the move of someone stalling, someone about to make things harder than they needed to be. "Sir," the captain said, slower this time, each word edged with authority, "this is not the time for phone calls." Ethan didn't look up. It's exactly the time. His thumb moved, one tap, then another, precise, controlled, no hesitation. Amanda let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "Unbelievable," she muttered. "He thinks calling someone is going to change this." No one joined her. That was new, because the energy in the cabin had shifted again, and even those who had been quietly judging Ethan before were now watching him differently, not as a disruption, not quite, as something unresolved. Lily noticed it too. Her eyes moved between Ethan and the captain, a small crease forming between her brows. This wasn't following the usual pattern. People who got pushed out of seats didn't stay this calm, didn't stay this certain. Ethan lifted the phone to his ear. The ringing didn't last long. "Yeah," he said, voice low, steady, like this was just another call in a long day. "I'm going to be a little late." A pause. His eyes flicked briefly to the captain, then to Amanda. "They've decided I don't belong in my own seat." Another pause, shorter this time. "No," he added, almost as an afterthought, "don't hold anything. Just start without me." He ended the call. Simple, clean, but the silence that followed wasn't. The captain frowned slightly. "Are you finished?" Ethan lowered the phone, looking at him now with a calm that didn't match the situation. "For now." Amanda shifted again, less relaxed this time, though she tried to hide it by adjusting her sleeve. "Can we move this along?" she said, sharper now. "Some of us actually have places to be." Ethan turned his head slowly toward her. "So do I." The way he said it made something in the air tighten. Not louder, not aggressive, just heavier. Lily swallowed, almost imperceptibly. She glanced toward the front of the plane, then back at the captain. "Should I call ground?" she asked quietly. The captain didn't hesitate. "Yes." That word landed harder than anything before it. A line had been crossed. Lily reached for her radio, fingers moving quickly, voice dropping into professional cadence. "Ground assistance requested at gate. We have a non-compliant passenger." Non-compliant. Ethan heard it, let it sit, didn't correct it. Not yet. Around them, the cabin came alive in a different way. Phones were no longer hidden. They were out now, open, recording. A man across the aisle leaned forward openly, no longer pretending not to watch. The woman by the window angled her camera directly. Amanda noticed. For the first time, her posture shifted in a way she couldn't fully control. A small adjustment, a flicker of discomfort. Being watched was different from being admired. Ethan saw that too. He saw everything. Minutes stretched, longer than they should have. Then movement at the front. Two figures stepped into view. Airport security, dark uniforms, measured steps, the kind of presence that changed the temperature of a room without saying a word. The first officer, tall, late 40s, scanned the scene quickly. The second, younger, stayed half a step behind, eyes already moving between faces, picking up tension like static in the air. "What's going on?" the lead officer asked. The captain spoke first. Of course he did. "Passenger refusing to follow crew instructions. We need him removed so we can depart." Removed. The word echoed differently now. The officer's gaze shifted to Ethan, took him in, head to toe. The calm stance, the steady eyes, the phone still in his hand. Not aggressive, not unstable, just unmoved. "Sir," the officer said, tone neutral, not yet taking sides, "can I see your boarding pass?" Ethan handed it over without a word. The officer looked down. 1 second.
too. His expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did, because what he was holding didn't match what he'd just been told, and suddenly the story wasn't as simple as it had sounded.
The officer didn't speak right away. His eyes moved slowly across the boarding pass, then up to Ethan, then back down again, like he was giving the moment a second chance to explain itself. The younger officer leaned in slightly, trying to catch a glimpse, but the lead officer angled the paper just enough to keep control of the read. Seat 2A, first class, clear, clean, undeniable. He lifted his head. "Sir," he said, turning toward the captain, "this shows first class, seat 2A. A pause, short, but sharp enough to cut through everything. Amanda's posture stiffened, just a fraction. Then she leaned back again, forcing her shoulders down, forcing control. "That doesn't mean anything," she said quickly. "People fake those all the time." The officer didn't look at her. He was still watching the captain. The captain's jaw tightened. "It's a system error," he said. "Too fast. We've already confirmed the seating issue." Ethan said nothing. That was the part that started to bother people. He wasn't defending himself anymore. He was letting them talk. The younger officer finally stepped closer, eyes flicking between Amanda and the boarding pass. "Ma'am," he said, cautious but direct, "can I see yours?" Amanda hesitated. There it was again, that flicker, smaller now, tighter. Then she handed over her phone. The officer glanced down. 3C. He didn't hide it. "Ma'am," he said, "this shows 3C. A ripple went through the cabin, louder this time, no longer whispers, reactions. "I knew it. That's what he said. Why are they even arguing this?" Amanda's face changed, not dramatically, but enough. The confidence didn't disappear. It hardened. "There's obviously been a mistake," she said, voice controlled but rising at the edges. "I always sit in the front. I have status with this airline." Status. She said it like it should override everything else. The officer looked at her now, really looked. "Ma'am," he said, slower, firmer, "this passenger has a valid ticket for that seat." Silence. Real silence. All eyes moved to the captain, because now the truth wasn't hidden anymore. It was sitting right there, out in the open, waiting for someone to acknowledge it. The captain exhaled through his nose, irritation breaking through the polished surface. "We're not debating tickets," he said. "We're addressing behavior. He's refusing to follow crew instructions." There it was, the shift, from facts to framing. Ethan's eyes lifted slightly, not surprised, not offended, just noting it. The officer frowned slightly. "Refusing to follow instructions regarding what?" he asked. "Relocation," the captain replied. "We asked him to move. He refused." The officer's gaze flicked back to Ethan. "Because?" Ethan finally spoke. "Because I'm already in the right place," he said. No emotion, no defense, just truth. The younger officer glanced at his partner, something unspoken passing between them. This wasn't adding up, not clean, not simple. Amanda let out a sharp breath. "This is insane," she snapped. "You're seriously going to hold up an entire flight over this? Just move him." Move him, like he was furniture. The words hung there, ugly, clear. A few passengers shifted, uncomfortable now in a different way. Not annoyed, not impatient, aware. The officer turned back to the captain. "Sir," he said, carefully, "if his ticket is valid, why are we removing him?" The captain didn't answer immediately. That hesitation spread faster than anything else, because now it wasn't just Ethan watching, it was everyone. Phones still raised, eyes locked in, waiting. The captain's voice, when it came, was harder. "Because he's creating a disturbance." Ethan almost smiled. Almost, but it didn't reach his face. Because in that moment, something became very clear. They weren't trying to solve the problem anymore. They were trying to control the outcome. And Ethan Walker was done letting them do that. The word disturbance lingered in the air like something sour, something everyone could taste but no one wanted to swallow. Ethan let it sit there. He didn't rush to correct it, didn't raise his voice, didn't even shift his stance. That stillness, that refusal to react the way they expected, started to feel heavier than any argument he could have made. The lead officer looked at him again, longer this time. "Sir," he said, tone steady, "are you refusing to leave the aircraft if asked?" Ethan met his eyes. No tension, no fear. "I'm refusing to give up a seat I paid for," he said. "If you're asking me to leave because of that, then yes." Clean, direct, no room to twist it. Amanda scoffed again, louder now, but there was strain under it. "This is unbelievable. He's holding everyone hostage over a seat. Just remove him already." A few heads turned toward her, not in agreement, in recognition. The younger officer noticed it too, the way the room was tilting, subtle but undeniable. He shifted his weight. "Captain," he said carefully, "we've confirmed his ticket. He's not being disruptive, he's just not moving." The captain's expression hardened. "That's enough," he said, voice sharper now. "We're not going back and forth on this." He was given a direct instruction. Ethan's gaze flicked to him. An instruction based on what? The captain stepped closer again, pushing into Ethan's space just enough to assert control. "Based on maintaining order on my aircraft." My aircraft. Ownership, authority, final word. Ethan didn't step back. "Order," he repeated quietly. The word felt different coming from him, like it had weight, like it meant something else entirely. Amanda shifted again, this time less gracefully. Her fingers tapped against her armrest, faster now. The confidence she wore so easily before was starting to crack at the edges, replaced by something sharper, urgency. "Why are we even still talking about this?" she snapped. "You've got security right here. Do your job." The lead officer didn't move. That was new. Because now the simple version of the story didn't hold anymore, and once that cracks, everything else starts to slip. Behind Ethan, a voice spoke up, clear, female, firm. "He showed you his ticket." Heads turned. The woman from the window seat, late 50s, silver hair pulled back neatly, her phone still raised, but her eyes locked on the officers now. "He hasn't raised his voice once," she added. "You all saw that." Another voice joined, male, from across the aisle. "Yeah, this doesn't make sense." A third, quieter but just as sharp. "You're removing the wrong person." The cabin shifted again, not just watching now, participating. Amanda's eyes widened for a fraction of a second, then narrowed. "Oh, now everyone's a lawyer?" she shot back. "You don't even know the full story." Ethan finally turned his head toward the voices behind him, just briefly, a small nod, not gratitude, acknowledgement, then back to the officers. The lead officer exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that comes before a decision. "Sir," he said to Ethan, "here's where we are. The crew is requesting your removal. Legally, they have that authority." Ethan nodded. "I'm aware." The officer continued, "But based on what I'm seeing, this situation isn't clear-cut." The captain's jaw tightened. "It is clear," he said. "He's refusing instructions." "And she's in the wrong seat," the officer replied, not raising his voice, but not backing down either. That landed, hard. Amanda opened her mouth, then stopped, just for a second, searching for the next angle. Ethan watched her, watched all of them. Then he glanced down at his phone again, that same unread notification still waiting. His thumb hovered over it, paused, then tapped. The screen changed, and whatever he saw there didn't surprise him, but it changed everything. He lifted his head slowly, eyes moving from the screen to the captain, and this time when he spoke, his voice wasn't just calm, it was decisive. "Go ahead," he said.
"Go ahead," he said,
and the calm in his voice didn't match the weight of the words. It wasn't surrender, it was permission. The captain narrowed his eyes. "Excuse me?" Ethan slipped his phone back into his pocket, slow, deliberate, like he had already made the decision that everyone else was still circling around. "Call whoever you need to call," he added. "Do whatever you think is necessary." A faint crease appeared between Lily's brows. Something about the way he said it didn't feel like resistance anymore. It felt settled. Amanda leaned forward slightly, seizing the moment. "Finally," she muttered, relief creeping back into her tone. "This has gone on long enough." But the relief didn't spread. Not through the cabin, not through the officers, not even through Lily. Because Ethan wasn't stepping aside, he wasn't reaching for his bag, he wasn't preparing to leave. He was just standing there, waiting. The lead officer studied him, then glanced at his partner. A silent exchange passed between them again. This didn't feel like a typical removal. There was no panic, no aggression, no unpredictability, just control. "Sir," the officer said carefully, "if we proceed, you'll need to come with us off the aircraft." Ethan nodded once. Understood. Another pause. Longer this time, because something wasn't lining up. If he was going to comply, why wasn't he moving? The captain took a step forward, impatience breaking through now. "Then let's not waste any more time," he said. "We're already behind schedule." Behind schedule. Time again. Pressure again. But now it felt hollow. Ethan tilted his head slightly, as if considering that word. Then he looked past the captain, toward the open aircraft door, toward the jet bridge where movement had just begun. Footsteps. Fast. Purposeful. Not security. Not crew. Something else. Lily noticed it first. Her eyes shifted just slightly, then widened before she could stop herself. The lead officer turned next. The captain didn't, not yet. Amanda followed their gaze, irritation flashing across her face. "What now?" she snapped. The answer stepped into view. A man in a dark suit, late 50s, breath slightly uneven from moving quickly, but posture still sharp. Not airport staff, not crew, authority of a different kind. He didn't ask permission to enter. "Hold this flight." The words cut through the cabin like a blade. The captain turned, irritation already forming. "Excuse me, sir, you can't just—" "Yes," the man said, not raising his voice but not slowing down either. "I can." He stepped fully into the cabin now, eyes scanning once, landing exactly where they needed to, on Ethan. A flicker, recognition, immediate, and everything changed in that fraction of a second. The man straightened, the urgency in his posture sharpening into something more precise, more controlled. "Mr. Walker," he said, not loud, but clear enough that the entire cabin heard it. Amanda's expression froze. The captain's words died before they could form. Lily's hand, still resting near her radio, went completely still. The lead officer took a half step back without realizing it, because the tone had shifted, not just respectful, careful. Ethan didn't move, didn't react the way someone might expect after being publicly recognized. He just looked at the man. "Did you get my message?" Ethan asked. The man nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." "Sir." That word landed harder than anything else so far. Amanda's eyes flicked between them, confusion breaking through the last pieces of her certainty. "What is this?" she demanded, voice sharper now, but thinner. No one answered her, because no one was looking at her anymore. The man in the suit took another step forward, lowering his voice slightly, but not enough to hide the urgency. "The board has been notified. Legal is already reviewing." A ripple moved through the cabin. Not confusion this time, something else. Something heavier. The captain's face tightened, color shifting just slightly. "I'm going to need an explanation," he said, but the authority in his voice wasn't landing the same way anymore. Not after that word, "Sir." Ethan finally moved, just enough to turn fully toward the captain, and when he spoke, his voice was calm, controlled, but now there was something else in it, something that had been there all along. "You're getting one," he said. The air didn't just shift, it tightened, like something invisible had just locked into place and everyone in the cabin felt it at the same time. The captain straightened instinctively, his posture correcting before his mind fully caught up. "Sir," he said, more measured now, "I need to understand what's happening." Ethan held his gaze, calm, unmoved. "You will." The man in the suit stepped slightly to the side, giving Ethan space but not stepping out of the moment. His presence alone was enough to rewrite the entire dynamic. He wasn't here to observe. He was here because something had already escalated beyond this cabin. Amanda let out a short, confused laugh. "This is ridiculous," she said, but the edge in her voice had dulled. "Can someone explain why this is being treated like some kind of crisis?" No one looked at her. That was new. The lead officer shifted his stance, suddenly aware he was no longer the highest authority in the space. "Sir," he said carefully to Ethan, "are you saying this situation needs to be escalated beyond flight operations?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He looked around instead, slow, deliberate, taking in the passengers, the phones still raised, the faces that had gone from curious to uncomfortable to alert, then Lily, then the captain, then Amanda. And when he spoke, his voice carried just enough to reach every corner of the cabin without rising. "I gave all of you a chance to handle this correctly." Silence. No movement. "I showed my ticket. I explained the situation. I asked for a simple correction." His eyes moved to Lily. "You saw the truth." Lily's throat tightened. She didn't speak. Ethan's gaze shifted to the captain. "You chose authority over accuracy." The captain's jaw flexed. Then Amanda. "You chose assumption over fact." Amanda's lips parted, but nothing came out. The words didn't feel like accusations. They felt like a record. The man in the suit stepped forward again, his tone low but firm. "For clarity," he said, looking directly at the captain now, "this situation has already been flagged at the executive level." Executive. The word hit differently. The captain blinked once, slow. Executive level? Ethan reached into his jacket pocket again, this time not for his phone, for a card. Black, matte, minimal. He held it between two fingers for a second before handing it over. The captain hesitated, then took it. His eyes dropped and stayed there. 1 second, 2, 3. Color drained from his face, not dramatically, but enough, because what he was reading didn't match the man he thought he was dealing with, not even close. The lead officer leaned slightly, trying not to make it obvious. The younger officer didn't bother hiding it at all. Amanda shifted in her seat again, faster now, something close to panic flickering behind her eyes. "What is it?" she asked, sharper. "What does it say?" No one answered her. The captain looked up slowly. Different now, completely different. "Mr. Walker," he said. The title sat heavier this time, careful, measured. Ethan didn't take the card back yet. "Go on," he said. The captain swallowed once. "CEO," he began, then stopped, like even saying it out loud required recalibration, "of Walker Technologies." A ripple went through the cabin, audible this time. Phones adjusted, whispers broke. "Oh my God, are you serious? That's him?" The man in the suit added, calmly, "and majority stakeholder in the parent company that oversees this airline." That one landed like a shockwave. Amanda froze. Completely. The smirk she had worn so easily before was gone, replaced by something raw, something unguarded. "No," she said quietly, shaking her head once, like rejecting the reality in front of her. "That's not—" But it was. The captain straightened fully now, but not out of authority, out of correction. "I apologize," he said, the words tight, controlled but unmistakably different from before. Ethan finally took the card back, slid it into his pocket. "You're not apologizing to me," he said, and that was worse, because now everyone understood. This was no longer about fixing a mistake. This was about what the mistake revealed. No one moved. Not the captain, not Lily, not Amanda, Not even the officers who had arrived ready to remove a man they now understood they had completely misjudged. Ethan stood there, still in the aisle, still in front of seat 2A, but everything around him had changed. The space felt different now. Not tense, not chaotic. Exposed. The captain cleared his throat, the sound dry, controlled, but carrying something new underneath. "We will correct this immediately," he said, turning toward Amanda. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to move to your assigned seat." No hesitation this time. No negotiation. Amanda didn't respond right away. Her fingers tightened around the armrest, knuckles paling slightly. The confidence she had worn like armor was gone. What remained was something smaller, something uncertain. She started, then stopped. For the first time, she looked at Ethan not as an inconvenience, not as a problem, but as something she hadn't accounted for. And that realization hit harder than anything else. Lily stepped forward, her voice quieter now, stripped of the earlier authority. "Ma'am, your seat is 3C, she said. "I can help you get settled." Help. The word sounded different now, too. Amanda stood slowly, not graceful, not composed, just careful, like every movement was being watched. Because it was. Phones still raised, eyes locked in. She stepped out of the seat. Ethan didn't move, didn't rush to claim it. He waited, watched, let the moment complete itself. Amanda picked up her bag, adjusting the strap with hands that no longer looked steady. As she passed Ethan, she didn't say anything, didn't meet his eyes. She didn't need to. The silence between them said enough. Lily guided her down the aisle, voice low, controlled, but now there was a different kind of urgency in it. Not to manage a passenger, to correct a mistake, a real one. The captain turned back to Ethan, posture fully reset. "Mr. Walker," he said, measured, respectful, "your seat is ready." Ethan looked at him for a second, then at the seat, then back at the cabin, at the faces, at the people who had watched it all unfold, some embarrassed, some thoughtful, some still processing what they had just witnessed. He nodded once, then stepped forward, set his bag down, and finally sat in seat 2A. The same seat, but not the same moment. The cabin didn't return to normal right away. It couldn't. Something had shifted too deeply. The illusion of how things worked, who was believed, who was questioned, it had cracked. The lead officer stepped back toward the exit, giving a small nod to Ethan before turning away. The younger officer followed, quieter now, more aware. Lily lingered for a second longer than necessary. "I'm sorry," she said, barely above a whisper. Ethan looked up at her, not angry, not forgiving, just clear. "I know," he said, and that was all. The captain moved toward the front, already issuing quiet instructions, voice controlled but carrying a different weight now, not authority, responsibility. Amanda sat in row 3, rigid, silent, staring straight ahead. No phone, no movement. The plane doors closed, engines deepened, and as the aircraft began to push back from the gate, the moment didn't disappear. It stayed, in the silence, in the way people avoided each other's eyes, in the quiet understanding that something small had revealed something much bigger. Ethan leaned back in his seat, looking out the window as the runway lights stretched into lines of gold against the darkening sky. His reflection stared back at him for a second, calm, controlled, unshaken, but not unchanged. Because moments like this weren't about winning, they were about seeing, and once you see it, you don't unsee it. The plane lifted, city lights falling away beneath them, and somewhere in that distance, the truth remained, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. If this story made you feel something, stay with it, like the video, subscribe for more stories that matter, and drop 3 words in the comments. Stay awake always.